Hi, I'm Jim, and today we're going to be talking about the recent 3.24 patch release that just went live last night, what features were added, what was cut, and how CIG could make a few quality of life improvements that I personally would love to see added. Firstly, if you aren't aware, with the recent 3.24 patch update, we now have two types of personal hangars available: personal and instanced hangars. The personal hangar is the hangar you get when you pick your starting location. You will be able to set this hangar up pretty much however you like, and it will retain its state in between play sessions regardless of in-game actions that you take. The instanced hangars, however, or if you just want to think of them more as a loner hangar, I think that might explain their use a little better, are assigned to you outside of your starting location, such as a station or a distribution center. And while they might look and feel the same as a personal hangar, their state will only persist so long as you remain at that location. So if, for instance, you leave a ground vehicle out and leave that location, you would return back to an empty hangar. They're supposed to persist beyond play sessions so long as you remain at that location, but I haven't personally tested that out. Now, as I stated, there are a few things that I would like to see changed that I'll be discussing here in a moment, but I do want to say that in general, I really like the addition of the personal hangars. I find that they're very demure, very mindful. The hangars really feel like kind of the best of both worlds in several ways. Not only do they give us a sense of ownership over a space that actually feels like our own, being that the personal hangars are in fact ours and not just generic Hangar 6 been assigned to for a few minutes while you wait for departure. Now, I hated when I'd call a ship to the hangar and realize that, oh crap, I forgot to grab this, I need to go do that thing before I leave, and only to run around trying to accomplish that just to hear the "we're sorry" message come over my game, knowing full well that my ship has just been stored when I'm just trying to complete whatever remedial task it is that I've set out for myself. Now, I don't know why I hated that mechanic. I just did. I couldn't stand it when my ship got stored. And now I don't have to worry about that. I can leave my ship or ships or all my garbage laying out in my hangar. The hangars also add a good bit of utility, and frankly, a good bit of quality of life improvement over what we've had previously till now. I've honestly felt kind of stuck at New Babbage for years at this point, given that before the 3.24 patch, it was one of the best locations to base at, in my opinion, given the proximity of the ground vehicle garages to the spaceport. It honestly felt like a waste of time to really base anywhere else, at least for me, over the past few years. So with the changes that 3.24 brought, with being able to have my personal hangar staged with ground vehicles, just waiting to be loaded into a ship, I now feel free to choose a location that's more geared towards my personal playstyle rather than one that's just convenient for ground vehicle access, despite the low number of times I actually needed to have that available. And I don't think you can talk about 3.24 without also talking about the changes in cargo. Now, the cargo, while I understand the vision in the gameplay that CIG is going for with the freight elevators, I do worry that we are going to very quickly be overrun by the ever-increasing role tedium is going to place and add to the game over the next several years or so. And I've already got some pushback on this. I've had a lot of people say like, hey, it's not that bad loading the cargo. It's actually kind of fun. And while I agree that yes, the addition of any mechanic in game can at first be fun just because, well, it's new and it disrupts the status quo of how cargo loading has worked for years at this point. And while yes, I'm aware that you can choose to pay a fee and wait out a timer to avoid handling your cargo, I don't actually know if you can do that with assets that you already own, things that are already inside your warehouse. Someone correct me if I'm wrong about that, but I think you can only choose to auto load when buying from a merchant, or in our case, a sales kiosk. But I'm just looking ahead at all the gameplay that's slated to be coming down the pipeline, and I honestly do worry about the user experience of anyone that wants to play this game casually. It's not just sellable cargo we're going to be loading. It's pretty clear that, especially true for the larger ships in the game, they're going to require a major amount of logistics and supplies if you intend to set out with a crew and plan to explore the more isolated regions of space that we're supposed to have at some point in the future. You're not just going to be loading up a couple SCU worth of titanium or gold. You're going to be loading extra hydrogen, extra quantum fuel, supplies for food, water, weapons, ammunition for both your ship weapons and FPS weapons. And I don't know if at some point in the future they're planning to make ground vehicles rely on some sort of fuel. But if they do, you'll have to carry that. The varying amount of specialized armor and clothing you're going to have on the vehicle. Replacement parts for your ships. Materials to make limited repairs when away from a station or repair ship. Having to keep up with life support. Other environmental problems as well. The new engineering that's coming out for all these ships that's just the initial T1 or T0 variant of engineering. It will get more complicated. Now, make that large ship into a carrier that'll be carrying other several small ships around with it, and all the extra crap you're going to have to throw onto the ship is going to increase a lot and quickly. And we're not even discussing the logistics of how to store, sort, and organize all of this stuff. We're just talking about having it somewhere on the ship. This is all going to take a lot of time to accomplish. I could easily see initially loading a ship like, say, a Kraken or an Idris or something that has multiple other ships that it's going to carry with it is going to take several people hours to perform. That's a lot of time just to load up your ship. I don't know anyone that thinks that when they're going on vacation, loading up the family car is the fun part of the vacation. In my experience, it's normally one of the parts people dread about vacations, camping, and such. While all of this could feel very immersive and when done properly, offers the potential for some extremely rewarding gameplay, I, again, just worry that the time investment versus the payoff won't be worth it. They are simply going to have to add some quality of life feature that lets us press a button and have a lot of these things performed for us. Now, I'm fine if there's a fee or if there's a wait timer applied to that. I can find something else to do in the meantime while my ship is being loaded down with all of these supplies and all of these materials and backup components and extra weapons and armor sets and all of the things I just laid out and talked about. But I don't want to do it all myself. If you're going to make me do it myself, we're going to have to add some quality of life features to make that not such a hassle. For instance, if I want to load out the armory on a Carrack, don't make me run back and forth to a loaded cargo box or a gear storage. Just give me the ability to access my inventory, just specifically within my hangar, not outside of the hangar, just while I'm in the hangar. Let me press I, let me grab the stuff I need, and just throw it onto a rack. You can limit that to small physical items. I'm fine with that. I don't need to be spawning 64 SCU of something out of nothingness. But give me the ability to place some weapons in an armory, fill out a couple of armor suits, fill out some flight suits, things of that nature. Don't make everything such a burden on the player. Now, as I said earlier in the video, while in general, I enjoy the personal hangars, there are a few things that I would like to see, and these changes would be more or less purely just for a outright quality of life improvements. Firstly, I know everyone was trying to find a way to get the largest hangar possible. I honestly find myself annoyed by their size, and I don't mean annoyed by their size in general. Like, if you call a small ship into a small hangar, proportionally they fit very well. The problem comes is when you have an extra large hangar and you call a small ship up into it. And yeah, I know how this sounds after we've spent literal years complaining to CIG that some of the hangars were just barely large enough to fit a ship into it. Now to be going on the opposite side and claiming some of the hangars are too large. But just hear me out. Like I said, there were several ships like the Hammerhead or Carrack that required that you made sure that no one was in the turrets or the ship wouldn't fit in the hangar. But the problem I find myself in now, since I have an extra large hangar and I call up a small or medium-sized ship, the hangar's just too large for that size ship. Now, there's an easy way to fix it, and if they come up with another way, sure, great, I'm all up. But I think the easiest way to fix it, I'd just like to see them break down the hangar pad into multiple size zones, and then they could spawn that ship, say it's a small ship, to the appropriate size zone nearest whichever console that you retrieve the vehicle from. It would really relieve a lot of this is a huge hangar for such a small ship. It's still a large space, but at least I'm not having to run halfway across the hangar just to get into a smaller sized vehicle. They should do the same thing with ground vehicles, to be honest. Some of the ground vehicles are so small when you call them up, you can't even see them from where you call them from. You just have to kind of trust that it's there. Another thing that I'd like to see, because I've tried to do it and I haven't found a way to do it if it's currently available. So let's say you buy yourself a Vulture and you decide you were going to start going out into the world and starting salvage runs. The most annoying thing about salvage runs was currently having to go back down to a city, run all the way into a trade district to sell off the RMC. And prior to now, you really didn't have a means to store cargo. But now with 3.24, you can go out with that Vulture, you can salvage to your heart's content, bring back anywhere from 12 to, let's be honest, you can fit more than 12 SCU on the Vulture if you really want to. Store that into the cargo hangar and start a little stockpile. And then once it gets up to a sizable amount that you're like, okay, this is great, this is all I need, I'll fill up a transport ship with this and I'll take it down to a planet side and sell it at a city. The only problem I see currently with that is they need to add the ability, once you have multiple same type of items stored in a hangar, they really needed to let you repackage that. Let's say you've built up 96 RMC at whatever station you're currently storing all your items at. Instead of having to pull out 96 1 SCU boxes of RMC. Wouldn't it be nicer just to go into the console, select your 96 SCU of RMC, and tell it to repackage that as 3 32 SCU containers, assuming you have a ship that can transport that? I would much rather move 3 boxes of 32 SCU, or even 4 boxes of 8, or whatever that number comes out to be, than I would singular 1 SCU boxes of whatever storage or item type. I think if they can add that mechanic into the game, you would see a lot more actual cargo transporting happen, where people stockpile something, wait till they have a significant or sizable amount of it, and then use a appropriate size ship to move all of that once in mass. I know that's how I would prefer to do something. Otherwise, I'm probably just going to keep going to Grim Hex selling it, because while, yeah, sure, there's the danger of Grim, which is pretty easy to get in and out of if you have any situational awareness. And yes, I know you get less for taking it there. It's just simpler right now. And I'm not going to harp on this next point too much, because I assume it's likely already been made multiple times. But given that we have modularity with ships, and the hangars are as large as they are, it would be really interesting if in the future, I know they can't do it right now, if they could start adding modularity to our hangars. I would probably log off at a planet far more often if I didn't have to wake up in the habs. If I could just have a hangar module that was a sleeping bed, and I could choose that as my kind of log off restoration point, I guess we'll call it, I could see myself using that far more often than I do currently. At the moment, I only go down to planets when I have to. But if I had the ability to log out where my personal hangar is and log back into my personal hangar, I think I would probably choose that option far more often than not. And I know what you're saying, like, hey, listen, there have to be a reason. They built these habs, right? They're going to have a reason in game to use the habs. And I think you're right. But I also think that in the future, we're probably going to have some level of comfort added into the game. And I would imagine that sleeping at a purpose-built hotel designed to accommodate for comfort would probably give me a lot more comfort value than, say, a knapsack in a garage. And if you don't think they're going to add comfort into the game, I'm going to challenge you on that, because I really don't understand how any other way they're going to balance ships like Origin versus a multitude of other ships that perform the same feature, just not with a quote-unquote luxurious feel. They're going to have to add some sort of mechanic in the game that takes advantage or uses the quote-unquote luxury brand. But I think that's where I'm going to leave this video off at. So what are your opinions on the hangars? And more importantly, what are your opinions on the cargo changes? I think in large, most people enjoy the hangars, but I'm curious to how people feel about the cargo and what they see that type of game type going forward. Is it something you're going to enjoy, or do you think it's going to become cumbersome and tedious? Let me know in the comments, and if you'd like to, I've got a Discord up. Feel free to join. I try to be in there as often as I can be. Until the next time, see you in the verse.